Hello there, Reject Nation. I'm Greg Alba.
I'm John Humphrey.
We're gonna do a fun Top Reward tier video here.
Funiraj Krishna.
It's kind of a long one. It is from Patrick H. Willems. How Star Wars trailers weaponize nostalgia. Obviously, this guy has like over 200,000 subscribers. He's almost 300,000. He's a great YouTuber, doing better than us right now. Go subscribe to his channel as soon as you can, people.
Big fan.
Let's check this out.
Hello? Hey, Patrick, how's the sabbatical going?
It's great. I mean, I'm not thinking about videos or movies or...
Yeah, listen, break time's over. We need you to get back here.
Wait, what? I just got here.
Time moves faster on YouTube, man. People have already forgotten your name.
We need another video. Can't you just get my parents to do it?
I tried. They're in Hawaii with Sage for Thanksgiving.
Sage?
Look, the new Star Wars just dropped, and I think you should be the first guy to make a video about it. You can talk about color grading or your dumb Felicity theory.
Look, I told you a year ago, no more videos about Star Wars movies.
You said the same thing about Mission Impossible. Here, I'm going to send you a link. And no tricks this time. I don't want 20 minutes of cats in space. Look, I gotta go. I'm helping Thomas Frank launch his music career.
What?
Bye.
He has an Empire Strikes Back towel. I wonder if this is based in some form of reality.
Now I understand. I'm not going to make a video about Star Wars movies. I'll make one about... On November 13th, 1998, the first trailer for Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace debuted in theaters in front of the movie Meet Joe Black.
Yeah!
And it hit the world with the force of multiple speeding cars.
Woo!
So many people bought tickets just to see the trailer that it boosted the box office take for that weird 3-hour movie where Brad Pitt plays the Grim Reaper. Some theaters even showed the trailer again after the movie to convince people to sit through it.
Really?
This one trailer changed popular culture, ushering in an era in which the mere release of marketing materials is nearly as big a deal as the movie itself.
Really?
In which
I did not know
fans
that.
study trailers frame by frame to try to decipher hidden meanings and unearth plot points. It made trailers into events, and to this day, no trailer is as big an event as a Star Wars trailer.
Maybe an Avengers
Also,
trailer.
stick around to the end of the video, and I'll play that clip of Brad Pitt getting hit by the cars again. Okay, friends.
Way to
I'm
hook
back.
us.
Now let's talk about movie trailers. Through the history of cinema, trailers evolved from pretty dull, rudimentary previews that just strung a handful of scenes together into their own fascinating
They were
medium.
way more spoilery. Yeah.
I'm not going to go as far as to call them art, because they're not. They're pieces of marketing designed to sell you something. But while they're not art,
I might argue with
similar
that.
principles
A lot of
apply.
people have.
And trailers use the tools available in a chosen artistic medium, arranging elements so as to express an idea. But while art does this to express the artist's personal vision, trailers communicate the idea that you need to see this goddamn movie. And few trailers do this as well or as skillfully as the trailers for Lucasfilm's current Star Wars trilogy. They're not just cramming a bunch of cool shots and funny jokes into 2 minutes. They're designed to give the viewer a powerful emotional experience, while also, over the course of 5 years, communicate an evolving idea about the series. These don't have the depth of actual movies because, again, they're just pieces of marketing designed to sell stuff, but there's some really fascinating craft on display, and as examples of film editing, I think they're worth analyzing. So
I'm
now
willing to
we're
hear
gonna
this
analyze
out.
the shit out of them.
Oh, stepping into our
Let's
turf.
make it clear what we'll be talking about. It's the 2 teasers and the final trailer for The Force Awakens, the teaser and final trailer for The Last Jedi, and the teaser and final trailer for The Rise of Skywalker. 7 trailers, that's it. Let's go.
I mean, Phantom Menace
If the
is just a
Phantom
bunch
Menace
of new
trailer
things.
is the most important trailer in film history, I would argue that the first teaser for The Force Awakens is a pretty close second.
There has been an awakening. Have you felt it?
It might have been 9 years since the last Star Wars movie, but it would be continuing a story that left off in 1983 and bringing back the original characters.
Right, okay.
Somehow.
I get you.
No one really knew what this movie would be. The Force Awakens teaser had to reintroduce Star Wars, set the tone, and establish the meta-narrative of the marketing that would continue over the next 5 years through the whole trilogy. We'll get back to that part in a bit. Look, we've all seen this
okay.
trailer, and we probably all know it by heart. I still remember exactly where I was sitting when it hit the internet on November 28th, 2014.
The beach.
So let's look at the trailer itself and break down what it's doing. We had all waited 9 years for a look at new Star Wars, and then the trailer begins, and it makes us wait even more. It slowly fades in on a static shot of a desert, and nothing happens for a full 10 seconds. And then, for the following minute, after every shot, the trailer cuts back to black, making us wait and hold our breath for the next one. It's reinforcing that same idea that made people pay money to watch that Phantom Menace trailer back in '98. The idea that Star Wars footage is valuable and precious, and we should savor every second of it.
Yes!
Okay, so back to that first shot.
Yes!
When something finally happens,
He gets it!
it's this. It's a mix of old and new. The desert setting and stormtrooper armor are familiar to us, but what's not familiar is seeing a stormtrooper without his helmet, portrayed as a real character, and also a black stormtrooper. And each successive shot continues this mix of old and new. We've got a practical protocol droid in a desert scrapyard. That's familiar, but it's a new kind of ball droid we've never seen before. It's got stormtroopers, but this time with subjective filmmaking, shot from their perspective with handheld camera work. We've got a desert and a
great shot.
practical land speeder, but with a new character and a speeder design we've never seen. We've got rebel pilots flying X-Wings, but they're flying inside a planet's atmosphere over water. And of course there's a villain in a black cloak, but he has this crazy new kind of lightsaber.
Shot not in
And through
movie.
it all, there's new music playing that is clearly by John Williams, but it's not using any familiar Star Wars themes.
Familiar but
The
different.
effect of all of this is overwhelming. We're excited and anxious and trying to take it all in, reconcile this mix of familiar and new. In every shot, our brains are screaming, what is going on? There's no context. We don't fully understand what we're looking at. And then, it cuts to black again. And we wait. And then it hits.
Yeah, I remember
The
that.
classic opening Star Wars theme.
That's when
in
Tyrone
all its
was
glory
freaking out and
from the
became
image of
super
the Millennium
famous.
Falcon blasting off. It's a pure, uncut
Gotta relive
hit
that
for
moment at
visual
the end of
and auditory
this
nostalgia
video.
Straight to the pleasure centers of our brains. It's like taking a drug. It's new and cool and scary
Did
and
boost
unfamiliar,
reactions
and then
for trailers,
there's that
too.
pure rush of euphoria. Wait, what am I talking about? I don't know anything about drugs. I'm an anxious nerd who's afraid of everything. The trailer gives us a lot of new stuff to take in and process, and in the end, rewards us with the nostalgia we crave. The warm feeling of the Star Wars we know and love.
Yeah.
It's the spoonful of sugar that makes the medicine go down, even if that medicine is also pretty cool. And that idea, the use of classic elements from the original trilogy as payoffs and rewards, the interplay between old and new, is what would drive all the trailers for these movies.
Yeah.
The exact same thing happens in the second teaser for The Force Awakens. This is the one that's basically a big build-up to this.
Chewie.
We're home.
It's like Lucasfilm is making a deal with the audience. You sit through the first 2 minutes, you pay attention to the new stuff, and then as a reward, you get to see your friends Han and Chewie again. This is the moment where everyone screams and cries and punches their friends because they're so excited.
Hey, there's Jabby. There's me.
Oh, there you are!
There's
Beyond
Tyrone.
continuing the
Tyrone.
use of nostalgia as a payoff, this teaser
I made it.
establishes the running meta-narrative that continues through
now I'm
every trailer
sad.
in the series.
Will you introduce me to Patrick?
Divorced from the years through advertising, what the trailers are really communicating to us is the transition from the old generation to a new one. It uses familiar elements to get us invested in the unfamiliar ones. It uses our nostalgia to sell us on something new.
It's a lot of movies now.
This teaser begins with John Williams' iconic Force theme, aka the Binary Sunset, played on a solo French horn. When we hear that, we think of this. That original feeling of yearning for something more, for some kind of adventure. And here it's played over images of the destroyed iconography of the original trilogy. A crashed Star Destroyer, Darth Vader's ruined helmet, what appears to be Luke's old lightsaber. And there's a voiceover from Luke Skywalker, which isn't from the new movie at all. It's just taken from Return of the Jedi.
The Force is strong in my family.
Oh, young Mark Hamill voice.
My father has it. I have it. And my sister has it.
But here, stripped of its original context in that film, when he says,
You have that power too.
it feels like he's addressing the new characters from this movie.
Yes.
Since the trailer immediately cuts to a montage of them. The only characters we see in close-up are the leads of the new movie. Rey, Finn, Kylo Ren, and Poe. And the image we see right before Luke's line is a lightsaber being handed from one person to another. It's literally a torch being passed.
You have that power too. In time, you'll learn to use it as I have.
This dialogue, originally from 32 years earlier, is used to bridge two generations. It's the magic of trailer editing, using old material in a new context to communicate an idea, to make the new characters seem important to audiences because Luke Skywalker's telling them they are. We care about
Yeah, I
them
feel like that's a
because
creative
Luke
art
does.
to put that
Guys,
together, though.
Editing is wild, and it gets even wilder in the final trailer for The Force Awakens. This is where we need to start talking about the music. Starting with this one, all the trailers for the series would use primarily newly recorded music, with other composers such as Frederick Lloyd, John Samuel Hansen, Chris Westlake, and Blake Robinson rearranging John Williams'
I feel like
original
this
themes.
marketing
The first
approach
minute
is
of this
super
trailer is
appropriate,
devoted
though,
to the
for
three
Force
central new
Awakens.
characters. And
Considering
then,
what The
as
Force
the two
Awakens
trailers
is.
before did, it rewards us with nostalgia. As the trailer cuts to the Millennium Falcon, a new arrangement of Han Solo and the Princess kicks in. The original recording from Empire Strikes Back sounds like this.
Aw,
But instead
nostalgia.
of a light love theme, now it's a sweeping epic anthem full of Hans Zimmer-esque percussion.
There are stories about what happened.
And as soon as it begins, even in its new form, we have that hit of nostalgia. We're reminded of Han and Leia, and then, moments later, Han himself appears. This midway point in the trailer establishes something each film's final trailer would do. A brief scene in the middle that connects the old generation and the new. So here, Han is talking to Rey and Finn. The full trailers for The Last Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker would take this further by slowing the trailer down to let the audience sit in this emotional moment. The Last Jedi's trailer cuts out all music for a long moment between Kylo Ren and Leia.
That's a shooter.
The trailer cuts back and forth between close-ups of their faces, linking old and new, mother and son. The new trailer for The Rise of Skywalker pauses in the middle for a scene with the heroes of the new trilogy talking to C-3PO, who refers to them as
My friends.
3PO was once the friend of Luke, Han, and Leia, and now has been passed down to the heroes of the new trilogy.
C-3PO,
and here it
the
feels
real
like he's
star.
saying goodbye. It's pretty much the most emotional moment I can recall C-3PO having in the entire series. And the music underscoring it is Yoda's theme.
What are you doing there, 3PO?
Taking one last look, sir.
Most people watching aren't going to notice that on first viewing. I mean,
Definitely
I
did
didn't.
not.
But it gives a subconscious reminder of other beloved supporting characters from the original films. Old and new are connected via dialogue and via music. For what is, again, a piece of marketing, it's pretty powerful stuff. Hi, it's me again. Sorry for the interruption. I just wanted to bring something up because we're talking about Star Wars.
You're
and we're
talking
only
about
about a month
Skillshare
away
right now.
from Episode 9.
I read the
So
top of
last
your
year I made this
description box.
video called Solving the Mystery of J.J. Abrams.
Never mind.
In which I attempted to figure out
Very
who
wrong.
Abrams is as a storyteller and what he'll do with Episode 9 by watching all 84 episodes of the TV series Felicity. The first show he ever created and the only long-running project he ever stayed on until the end. So, I want to go on the record again with my theory about how The Rise of Skywalker will end, and yes, I'm basing this 100% on Felicity. First off, there will be time travel. Secondly, Rey and Kylo Ren
unpopular
will get
theory.
together, like, romantically. And finally, she'll end up back home on Jakku where she started. Now, do I want this to happen? Not really. What are the odds that it will? Very poor, like 1,000 to 1. But I'm sticking with this theory,
I
so
don't know,
if
man.
it happens, you know who said
Time
it first.
travel thing doesn't
Okay?
seem
Back
far-fetched.
to the video.
Does not.
And to get back to the music, throughout the
these
other
days.
trailers in the series, there are some really interesting things happening. The teaser for The Last Jedi is mostly focused on Rey's training, as she learns more about the Force. And the music overlaps Rey's theme and the Force theme.
Binary
So it
That might
sounds
be
like
my
this.
favorite Star Wars cue.
So while we see these images of her learning more about the Force, the music is reinforcing it by doing the exact same thing.
I get it.
They're becoming one. It builds to a climax where the music goes into epic action mode. But now it shifts between an epic version of the Force theme and an epic version of Rey's theme. In John Williams' score for The Force Awakens, the final track is called The Jedi Steps, and it's literally the soundtrack to two generations meeting, as Rey arrives on Ahch-To to deliver the lightsaber to Luke. And continuing the trailer's theme of transitioning from one generation to the next, the final trailer for The Last Jedi uses the Jedi Steps throughout. Like this.
I've seen this roster.
The Rise of Skywalker teaser takes the ongoing narrative of the new generation replacing the old and makes it even more explicit. The opening scene focuses
did you
on
see
Rey
their D23
with
special
a
look?
voiceover from Luke who seems to be speaking to her. And let's listen to what he says.
1,000 generations live in you now.
There's the word generation again. And then what does the text in the trailer say?
Every generation.
Hey, there it is. I wonder if that's what they've been getting at for the past 5 years. The trailer is mostly set to a sweeping epic version of Princess Leia's theme.
Reminding
So
us of
while
that
we're
goddamn
watching a
Carrie
montage
Fisher.
of mostly the newer characters, there's that connection to the original films. And then when
was
we
great to have
finally
Leia's
get the shot of Leia herself, especially with the knowledge that Carrie Fisher
Mm-hmm.
passed away 2 years ago, it hits even harder. And importantly, in the shot, he's
years
giving
ago,
Rey a big ol' hug. We've got the connection between old and new, and Rey is crying, and maybe I am too, I don't know. And just like the original Force Awakens trailers, we have the final payoff of older classic elements. The image of the Death Star, and the sound of Palpatine's laugh. But instead of joyous, this payoff is ominous. The narrative here seems to be that in this transition from one generation to the next, the final step for the new generation is to overcome the same challenge that the previous one faced. So maybe that's the plot of the movie. I don't know. We'll find out soon. But now there's the latest trailer. The final trailer. The last trailer of this entire trilogy. It begins as almost all of them have, with Rey. Some of the early imagery, with her climbing through the wreckage of old Imperial ships, directly calls back to the first trailer to The Force Awakens.
Nostalgia for Force Awakens.
It's already playing on our nostalgia for 4 years ago. But musically, this is doing a lot. like more than I can really analyze myself, because I don't really know anything about music theory. So I brought in someone who does. So Brian Matolius is a friend of mine who's a really talented composer. I've worked with him on a bunch of projects, and he also happens to be an expert on John Williams' Star Wars music. So I've got him on a call right here. Brian, thank you for joining us. Can you break down what is going on musically in this Star Wars trailer?
All right, so that beginning section is in the key of D. That section is meant to be like Star Wars flavored, like a LaCroix is to a lime, as this music is to Star Wars music. It uses the harmonic language of Star Wars. It will feel like Star Wars without using any recognizable themes.
So in the first section of this trailer, there's this horn part that kind of slowly rises up toward the foreground of the music. What's going on with that?
Oh, yeah. So that horn part is actually from Leia's theme, but it's not the melody. It's actually what's called the counter melody, and it's something that runs along with, but against the melody.
So here's Leia's theme, and now listen for the horn part.
Beautiful. I'm into it.
That's actually pre-existing material from A New Hope that's meant to go along with Leia's theme. But Leia's theme is nowhere to be heard, so it's essentially Leia's theme without Leia. It's Leia's theme music without the melody.
Long have I waited.
The trailer seems to be aware that everyone is aware that Carrie Fisher is no longer with us. I could be reading into that way too much, and probably am. But the trailer does say, I'm going to have one last look at my friends, and like a second later, Rey is embracing Carrie Fisher. So all bets are off. After that section with Leia's theme, the music builds and builds and builds, and it cuts out. And we get a close-up of C-3PO.
Look at the little guy.
And they really want us to pay attention to what is being said here. And the way they do that is basically by bringing the volume down in the music and by reorchestrating it so that it's just the high woodwinds.
What are you doing there, 3PO?
The high woodwinds are playing Yoda's theme, actually, even though Yoda is nowhere to be seen. The chords
Yoda will
for
make an
the main
appearance.
theme that everyone knows, da 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 da. What you actually are doing is going from D major to E major. So D major, E major. I played along on the piano to this trailer dozens of times, and I think it was maybe about the fifth or sixth time that I realized why they're using Yoda's theme there when there's really no visual reason to. And it really comes down to it telegraphing the key change that's coming immediately afterwards. Yoda's theme is interesting harmonically because it basically has the tonic chord, which is D major, and then it goes immediately up to E major. What that does, it sets you up for the big title card, This Christmas, which is where the key changes to E major. So the beginning section is in D. You got the Yoda section in the middle.
What are you doing there, 3PO?
Taking one last look, sir.
Which is very short, but it does go D E D E. So it's like pulling in either direction, and then immediately afterwards, bam, you got your E major section. And that E major section is the music that we all know and love, the opening title crawl, but in E major. And the opening title crawl, as it's used right here in the trailer, is like a chorus from a pop song. It repeats it several times. It even reharmonizes it a little bit on the second time through. Just to make sure that you're not getting tired of it. And it got there by doing a step up key change. Some examples of this are I Want It That Way by the Backstreet Boys. And probably the most famous key change I can think of is Whitney Houston's I'll Always Love You. It's a very powerful compositional technique. The trailer does essentially the same thing. It goes from D major to E major and hits that familiar music that you know and love several times as if it were a chorus in a new key, and it brings the house down. So essentially, the person who put together this trailer music treated all the themes as if it were a pop song for the greatest dramatic effect.
That was great. Brian, thank you so much for joining us and helping explain all the stuff that I couldn't have done myself.
That's
But
so
now,
smart.
Back to the black backdrop.
I think
So maybe you're watching this going, hey Patrick,
I'm okay with
these
it.
are just trailers for
Oh, yeah,
movies
this is
about
supposed to be
space
bad.
wizards intended for children. There's not that much to analyze. And to that I say, yes, there totally is. Do you really think Disney isn't putting everything into the marketing for some of the most anticipated movies of all time? That they're not hiring the best editors who are using every editing trick in the book to subconsciously influence us? I'm pretty sure everything that I've mentioned here was totally intentional, plus probably a bunch more tricks that I missed. It works like this. The more goosebumps we get from these trailers, the more money they're going to make. Ah, but what of Rogue One and Solo? The other Star Wars movies released during the Disney era.
They 1000%
While they're
do
not
the same
part of
thing.
the core Skywalker saga, they're both directly tied to it, so there's plenty of nostalgia to weaponize. Rogue One takes a popular trailer trend and applies it to Star Wars. You know all those trailers set to sad, slow covers of pop songs? Well, these trailers use sad, slow piano versions of the Force theme and the Imperial March.
it works.
It gives us that hit of nostalgia, but with a new feeling.
Yeah.
The trailers are filled with familiar imagery from the original trilogy. Rebel pilots, the Yavin base,
I'm part of the problem.
stormtroopers, Star Destroyers, the Death Star,
never said this
AT-ATs,
was
but it's all
bad.
shown from a perspective and in a style we haven't seen before. It's darker and grittier, and you know what? That is appealing to a lot of people. It's doing a similar thing to the sequel trilogy, showing us stuff we already know, but in a way that feels new. And Rogue One made $1 billion, so you know what? I guess it worked. And then there's the weird case of Solo.
Oh.
The bastard stepchild of Star Wars. It's a prequel about one of the most popular characters in the entire series. There is so much nostalgia
movie
there
world.
for the trailers to tap into, but instead they just ignore most of it. The only original John Williams theme they use is this quick burst of the Force theme at the end that honestly sounds like it came from a theme park ride. The general principle of every Star Wars trailer has always been, give the audience goosebumps. And the Solo trailers don't even seem to try. Is this the reason the movie was way less successful than all the others? I doubt it's that simple, but I think that's part of it.
I think it plays.
I mean, what kind of Star Wars trailer doesn't make you feel something? Every Star Wars trailer has always made the movie seem important. And the Solo trailers just seem kind of throwaway and disposable. Now, I want to reiterate, these trailers are pieces of marketing. Martin Scorsese would not call them cinema, and you know what? Neither would I. But they use cinematic language and tools in a way that I think is worth studying. There's an emotional journey across these 15 minutes worth of trailers. The introduction of a new generation and the departure of an older one. The final Rise of Skywalker trailer ends with a close-up of Rey, our new protagonist, hearing the voices of Luke and Leia. It's telling us that while we'll always have those original elements from the original movies that we know and love, the story has changed hands to a new generation of characters. The cycle is complete. So when you get chills or tear up watching one of these things, it's because these editors are very good at their job, and they know exactly how to weaponize your nostalgia. Ha! Got the title in there one more time. Alright, let's roll it again.
Yeah.
We made it.
Woo!
Okay, it's done. You got your Star Wars video. Can I please go back to the beach now?
Yeah, in a minute. First thing, though, did you know that somebody made a whole Skillshare course about how to do sponsor segues like you?
Wait, what? I didn't realize the way I did sponsor segues was actually that unique. I mean, all I do is look for some excuse to bring up a specific class, like the one Dan Liu did about color grading, but I mentioned that it's on Skillshare, and that Skillshare is an online learning community with thousands of classes, and... Oh.
Yeah.
I mean, that course is really good.
Now bring it home.
It's sponsor time. Look, if you've been watching this channel for a while, you know I care probably too much about color grading. And if you want to know more about it, like how it works, what it means, and how to do it yourself, you should check out this class, Color Grading for Filmmaking, The Vision, Art, and Science by Dan Liu. And yeah, it's on Skillshare, who I'm really happy keeps supporting this channel because it is a great site that I actually use a lot. There are thousands of classes there, not just about filmmaking, but about everything from music to cooking to interior design. If you sign up now at the link in the description, you can get 2 months of unlimited classes totally free. So many skills can be shared and learned in 2 months. So go click that link, sign up, help out the channel, and learn some stuff. Hello, welcome back, and hey, I'm back too, like really. I took it easy for the past month, but now I'm feeling refreshed and excited to be making new videos again. I want to give a huge thanks to my friend Brian Metolius for helping out with this video. Brian is a brilliant composer who I've worked with on videos on this channel, and on theme songs for my podcast. He's also the composer for the hit off-Broadway play Puffs. There's a link in the description to his site, so seriously, go hire him. He's great. He knows so much about John Williams. Also, very important announcement, our official merch store is now open. What? And yes, there's a shirt that says, this is a movie about space wizards intended for children. So if that's the kind of thing that you want, link is down there. Go buy some stuff. Go check out the Patreon to support the channel and get access to exclusive stuff. Listen to Can't Get Enough of Keanu and the Infinity Podcast every week. Go visit our subreddit and follow me on all those social medias. I'll see you in a couple weeks. Goodbye.
Look at all those patrons.
Soon they could be ours. They just see this reaction, they're like, by proxy, we have to support
Or primarily just listening reaction.
Yes, and occasionally commenting, laughing, you know. Yeah, and hey, we've been sponsored by Skillshare too, look at that.
Yes.
Although not in this video.
Damn. The names don't stop.
No, they never will.
That is so many names. I kind of want to hear this Can't Get Enough of Keanu podcast.
I know.
It's playing into my nostalgia for Keanu.
It is designed to do so.
It's weird. Nostalgia is a positive thing. It really is. And for some reason, whenever I hear it brought up on the internet or in film circles, it seems like there's this undertone of cynicism to the word now. Of everything's about nostalgia now. It's like the way they make being woke to be a negative thing now, you know? Really, I'm like, why is this exactly negative? Because, you know? So when I heard the title, how Star Wars trailers weaponize nostalgia, I immediately assumed we were walking into a video that was going to be all about how Star Wars manipulates you and that this is a negative thing just because of the way that title sounded. Come to find out, it's really just an analysis. It's just a breakdown.
Yeah,
and I kept waiting for the...
here's why you suck for playing into it. Here's why you need to stop now.
That's where I thought it was going and never went there. There is a video we covered from Vice News called How Movie Trailers Manipulate You. That video was 8 minutes long or something. But then our discussion based off of it essentially became our own video about how, there's a lot of editing went into that one. I really recommend you guys check that out because, I do think there's something to be studied about trailers specifically. And I think naturally sequel trailers are going to do that. Any movie that is a sequel is going to play into your nostalgia, just sticking to the topic here. Force Awakens, I think, is incredibly appropriate to do that. Because you're taking in the context of you have the original trilogy, decades go by, or like a decade and a half ago, and then you get the prequels, and there's a major letdown. And then you get this announcement of a new trilogy with new players involved and the old returning cast. So the whole point, I think, what Force Awakens was trying to solidify, then it's even in the film itself. It's gotten a lot of criticism for being just a soft reboot of A New Hope in a lot of ways. Like, to me, that was never a nostalgia thing. That was upsetting. I always understood it. Now it seems like they really heavily rely on it to the point where I can go back and forth between being super excited, because honestly, whenever they played Rise of Skywalker footage here, I was like, yeah, I felt that. And then there's the other side where occasionally, it just depends on the mood I'm in, I'll be watching the trailer in the theaters before a movie starts, and I go, this is working on me because of its nostalgia, and I'm not as excited about the new stuff and the new characters. And I feel like by now, when you're wrapping up this new trilogy, it should be playing more into that side of things as opposed to just the nostalgia from the original trilogy, you know?
And I think that's the exact thing that causes people to get cynical about nostalgia in the first place, because as we've just seen, I feel like Terminator Dark Fate has been just like a constant reference point, like even in a lot of videos we've been watching lately. You can even point at that movie and see that they're using that nostalgia and playing with your feelings to get you in, but they're not necessarily, with all these movies that use that technique, delivering something respectful to the thing they're using your nostalgia for, you know?
True.
And I think that's going to be the big maker or breaker for Rise of Skywalker, is sort of, by the end of this, is it going to feel like we love Finn, Rey, Poe, the new players, or are we going to be like, oh wow, I'm glad that we got the original cast to their, conclusion.
Sure.
This is the end of the Skywalker saga, but, does that mean that episode 10 or the new episode 1 is going to be a new Rey saga?
Yeah.
And if that's the case, are people truly going to be invested if that nostalgia then goes away?
I mean, I don't know. Like, without trying to theorize too much about Rise of Skywalker in and of itself, I'm kind of surprised by how much they've seemed like they've tripled down on the nostalgia fest.
Yes.
I thought he was going to dive a little bit more into Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah.
And I think that plays in tune with how Force Awakens was a nostalgia fest marketing campaign.
Yeah.
The movie itself, in a lot of ways, is a nostalgia fest.
Yeah.
And then they did The Last Jedi, which seemed to break all the rules for
anti-nostalgia.
everyone. Yeah.
Let the past die.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then that just pissed off a lot of people.
Yeah.
We're not included in that camp, but we are well aware, okay?
It may have been a bit of an overcorrection for some people.
Right. Now, there's been a lot of talk with this movie of, are they going to just do their own thing? J.J. Abrams has talked about how he actually had some influence from speaking with Rian Johnson before going into production of this film, just doing his own thing. The trailers don't seem to support that.
Nope. Not at all.
But I think the marketing, especially, I don't know about the movie itself.
Yeah.
I mean, the Emperor's in there, but I don't know about the movie in and of itself. But the trailers are definitely trying to be like, no, don't worry, this is gonna be the Star Wars you love.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah, totally.
And it works on me when I'm watching it. That's what I mean by a joke that I'm part of the problem.
It works
because
every
it
time.
works on me. All these live-action animated remakes of Disney films work on me because when I see the trailers and then I watch the movies and I'm let down. I've noticed that. It's like a lot of time I'm kind of let down. Lion King I was super excited about, and then I was like,
That's the tricky thing about trailers, is you can make a great trailer out of it. Like, anything you have 2-ish hours worth of footage for, you can cut into an amazing 2 minutes if you want to.
Right.
And so that's the tricky thing about it.
well, I guess I can meet him halfway here on the idea that trailers aren't art, they're just marketing. I wouldn't say they're not creative, though.
No, he doesn't either.
Yeah, he doesn't either, but to me, that art is subjective, like most things, but art is subjective. And I think anything creative in and of itself can be an art. And I feel like there is an art to putting together a great trailer.
It's commercial art.
Sure.
I would meet like halfway there and say, because you wouldn't have the trailer without the thing it's trying to sell. You wouldn't need it.
Yeah, but for like an editor to have to work on composing something. Have you ever seen a bad trailer for a movie that's great? We've done plenty of those. We used to have a segment that
and vice versa.
I keep thinking of bringing back up called Trailers Revisited, which is a segment we were doing for a while, watching the original trailer for a movie that we've already seen, breaking down how well does it communicate. And I feel like that segment will really help me appreciate the art of trailers. Because that showed me that you have to communicate a lot about what the actual movie is. So the whole point of that segment was to go, does this trailer communicate the characters, the tone, the feel? What is it not communicating about the movie that we actually got from watching the film? You see, like with Solo, I think they were in this kind of like, this is not really a smooth transition here, but with Solo, I think they were in this weird position because that whole thing is all nostalgia.
Yeah.
More than Rogue One. Most of it heavily leans the movie itself. And I feel like they were in this conundrum where I think they are aware of cynicism that's applied to it. So they tried pitching us like, no, this is essential. This is new. When that really backfired on them. I think the release date close to Last Jedi, yada, yada, yada. But in just terms of talking about why I think they chose to do the trailers the way they did, was because the movie itself is so nostalgia that they were trying to tell us, no, there's a reason you gotta watch this. This is new and different.
Yeah, and he even brings up that of all the new Star Wars trailers, it is the one that does that the least. And funny enough for me, he said, like, you know, it kind of just plays like another action movie trailer. And when I saw that movie, I oddly feel like the trailer matches the movie really well, because to me, I was like, yeah, this is a fine action-adventure movie, and it's a fine trailer for a fine action-adventure movie. It doesn't get me particularly excited in one direction or the other, which is just funny. And I think you're right, is like, yeah, the whole movie is taking place inside of a nostalgia bubble, you know? We're gonna go flesh out Han for you in case you wanted that.
We're gonna see all the things that were briefly talked about in other movies.
We're gonna zoom way in on that stuff.
The Castle Run and all those things, you know?
And I think that just shows what happens when you're only having that to work with, perhaps, or you're not really trying to make it new beyond that, because, you know, Solo didn't seem like it was trying to introduce anything that was mind-blowingly new.
I like the breakdown of the songs that they were talking about, too.
Oh, yeah.
It's like these slight changes in notes and keys. It just keeps doing the familiar but different thing. It's very apparent what they're doing, but also movies do that. Like, the Matrix trilogy, everyone was the same opening song on the Warner Brothers logo, but they slightly changed it. There's always
you have to. Yeah.
Episodes of television do that with their theme songs a lot of the time. It's as they keep going, they do the same thing, but they slightly change it, you know?
Yeah, that's the natural thing of when an art piece grows that has all these different faculties surrounding it. And yeah, I mean, I think that was just a fascinating thing to realize, because you notice the music in a trailer, but you don't necessarily notice all that it's doing. And what I appreciated so much about the breakdown is he really bothered to analyze what it's doing and how much. See, the funny thing is, I feel like it's easy to get abrased a little bit by that declaration at the beginning that these aren't art, they're marketing. But at the same time, I do have to really appreciate the level of sophistication it would take to link all these things together as the person assembling this trailer, going, okay, for C-3PO, you know, a familiar character with a sort of wise aura, we're going to take Yoda's theme and the subconscious that plays on for you. Because, yeah, it's like, I wouldn't necessarily have thought of Yoda's theme, because I don't know the names of hardly any of the Star Wars cues. But at the same time, he pointed out these things where I was like, yeah, that's how I was feeling at the time that was playing. And so I don't know who knows music theory who's cutting a trailer, but it does seem like they're able to harness and use it, and that's just fascinating.
True.
I get why you would argue about the artistic merit of a movie trailer, but I do think it does exist in its own, because of what he pointed out with like the first Phantom Menace trailer, you know, making trailers themselves events. I think that is its own little bubble of creation. You're not expressing something that isn't based on a larger piece of source material.
Well, what about when like a person who does like tribute videos on YouTube takes a movie and then re-edits it? I feel like that kind of discredits a lot. I mean, he was given a lot of credit and was given a lot of praise to the power of editing. So I'm not in like complete disagreements with him. Like I know an editor, Nerd Chronic, whose ultimate goal is not to get into film, but what he really wants to do is he wants to edit movie trailers. He likes the idea of taking the whole movie and doing your best to communicate the story and sell the sizzle, the whole thing. And to me, it's kind of like saying the editor of it is not doing something artistic when I think it is. There's also the factor of the marketing. Yeah,
it's its own art, because we all saw what happened with Suicide Squad when they let the trailer house cut the movie.
That's what I mean. Of course, there's a marketing aspect where they're like, we have to make sure we're doing this, so they got to work with that. And
the thing, I mean, I honestly feel like it doesn't matter. Like the qualification of art, I think, is an interesting thing to argue over.
It's gonna be a thing I get hung up. I know I'm getting hung up on.
Well, the thing is, I think that whether or not you think a movie trailer is art, I don't think you can argue that they're not creative and that they don't call upon a lot of craft. And it is like, if you're the person cutting them, it is art. Like, it just depends on who's looking at it from what angle.
Yeah.
I can never ignore the asterisk that a movie trailer is only in existence, truthfully, to sell you a movie, whether or not that movie is good. So I get what is to be argued about there, because there is a manipulation happening, and if the movie's good, it's not a manipulation, and if it's not, it is.
Yeah.
So it's...
Yeah, because it's not as easy as just sound cues and good cutting,
Yeah. No. It takes instinct, and it takes, for Star Wars especially, I'm sure, a good knowledge of that. Not that anybody who's cutting trailers probably doesn't have that knowledge, but, a good knowledge of the source.
The thing that he really brought to light, which is so brief here, but it hit me on why they actually do this when he was talking about it. I never understood this trend of taking songs that have these dark remixes to them and then putting them on all these trailers. I didn't get why that was trending. I was like, oh, because it worked for a couple of movies. But it's true what he's saying. That to me is manipulative, because sometimes it really works where you're like, that song really fits the trailers. And other times it has nothing to do with the movie. It's not going to be in the movie. It's not a representation of the movie, but it is factoring into your nostalgia. It's kind of like emotional abuse. It's like it's factoring in to your nostalgia, like, oh, I love this song. This is a different this song has nothing to do with the movie. It's different than the Star Wars ones, which are like, that's from Star Wars. But that association makes you go, oh, I like this trailer. I want to see this movie now.
Yeah, totally.
And that's why I think a lot of trailers are either using those dark remixes or just using popular songs now in general, which is great for trailer reactions.
Oh, yeah. Well, and that's something you can point to across the art form as a whole, is like, here's a technique that works if you're using it the right way and it complements it, but it's totally hollow if you're just using it willy-nilly because it's popular.
But it hit me, that's why they do that now.
Yeah.
And I never understood it until this video.
Yeah. I hadn't even fully clicked onto that idea that they just want you to go, oh yeah, I love California Dreamin', so I like this trailer a little more than I did. This is an interesting version. I'm paying attention.
Guys, do you agree with what Patrick H. Willems is talking about? Do you think trailers are art? Comment below. Make sure to subscribe to Patrick H. Willems. I know that John's been a follower of him for a while. We were already subscribed because of you. Thank you.
I did a lot.
Really? I did?
I just did. I didn't subscribe to anybody.
Make sure to subscribe to him as soon as you can. Subscribe to The Real Rejects. Click our notification bell. Get notified whenever we got a YouTube video up. Check us out on Patreon as well. Niraj, thank you so much, dude. I really appreciate you sending this over. Originally sent over a music video, but most of the time, like, it's even with videos that aren't music videos will get blocked just because of music in it. So thank you for readjusting and go, I feel like this one sparked a whole new kind of thought process that I wouldn't have thought of. So
it's enriching and
you
nutritious.
Rock, dude. I hope you have a really happy Thanksgiving, man. I am grateful for you. And ladies, if you want to get some stuffing from a hot Indian guy,
oh yeah,
or I don't think he's gay,
or just a guy from New Jersey.
If you're gay, persuade Niraj.
Oh,
you get a good stuffing. Same joke applies.
Yeah. Hey, get that cranberry sauce.
We don't want to talk about his condition.
Sorry. Yeah.
He got a vasectomy. Occasionally, he's gonna bleed.
That was a slip. I'm sorry. Niraj Krishnan.